Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. It's time to have a look at the F-14A Iranian edition. This is coming in for the new event for Air, which is starting off on the 8th of August, so in a few days. They have added this thing to the files, so we can have a look, but just remember, these things sometimes do change, especially when it comes to armament, from when they first appear to the actual event itself. So take everything you see with a grain of salt. This F-14A is incredibly similar to the other F-14, and it will be part of the kind of summer event, I suppose. And the summer event starts on the 8th. All you have to do is grind 45k mission score every 2 days for, I think it's 9 stages to be able to get access to this thing. And then double that if you want to get its coupon. And I've got to be honest, if you're a market connoisseur, this thing's going to be pricey after a few years, since, you know, a lot of people like America, and the American tech tree is pretty good. So this one might be worth grinding out, just if you want to sell it later down the line. The vehicle is very similar to the standard F-14A. If you actually have a look at its shell, it's very similar to it. So it has the same radar, the ANAW G9, it has the same engines, the TF-30 P412As, and also the Vulcan and the fuel tanks and everything. So if you just look at its skin right here, everything is the same. So you can see here the ANAW G9 on the F-14A early, the same engines, the same gun, pretty much everything. So that is not what makes this thing special. It does also have an RWR, which is quite nice, a pretty powerful one at that, so will make it a bit easier to play. What's special about this one, not just that it's Iranian and also an event vehicle, which means you will have to grind out the modifications on it, by the way, and it won't give you premium bonuses. If you complete the last stage of the event, though, you will get access to some free mods that'll make it a bit easier. But what makes it special is this area right here. All of this stuff is basically the same, apart from the Yasser that you can see here, but these are what you're looking at. So it doesn't just have the standard missiles for America, it also has some new ones, which will play very differently to the American ones, which is quite fun. So it starts off with AIM-9Ps as the IR missiles and also as stock. That's going to be really rough. The AIM-9Ps are not all-aspect missiles at 12.3. They are standard kind of rear-seeking missiles, and they don't have great distance. They don't have great turn. I'm a hater of the AIM-9P. I really don't like the Js and the Ps. I prefer the Gs and the Hs, which is what the standard F-14 gets. So that's going to be really rough for you. But once you start getting some of the modifications, such as the AIM-54s and the Fakurs and the Sedigils, it'll be a little bit easier. So you can see over here in the modifications, you have one line for kind of American ordnance, and then one line for Soviet, and then kind of Iranian ordnance that you see here. So the Phoenixes, you can bring 4 of them, which is quite nice. And then for the Fakur 90, if you actually compare it to the Phoenix, what you're getting out of it is something which is slightly slower, has a slightly worse overload, and also a slightly worse TNT equivalent and guidance time. So the Fakur 90, at least the way that it's put in right now, is just a slightly worse Phoenix. So there's not really much reason to take it, unless you're looking for style points, I suppose, because it's just worse in every way. The Segil, which is here, this is another semi-active radar homing one, and you can see once again, it's not in the greatest position compared to the Phoenix, but it is a semi-active radar homing missile, so that's, you know, kind of cool. But compared to the AIM-7E2 Sparrow, this is the dogfight missile, which became very prominent about a year or 2 ago. And incredibly good to use. You can actually bring 6 of these, which is quite good. But if you compare the Segil to this one, you can see that the Sparrow is much more maneuverable, it's much more adaptable, and has much less of a launch range, though, and also a TNT equivalent. So the Segil is just going to be a big boomer from a semi-active point of view, which should actually be pretty fun. It gives you something different from the AIM-7E2, whereas this one will be better at close range, this one might be better at longer ranges, whereas the Fakur 90 just seems to be a straight downgrade from the standard Phoenix. The R-27R1 as well is a very good semi-active missile. You know, we've obviously seen it in game quite a lot in the Soviet machines, and it means that this is one of the first vehicles we have in the game which actually has mixed ordnance from the American side and the Soviet side, which is actually pretty cool. In terms of ground target hits, because I'm sure some people want to base bomb with this to be able to get the modifications, it doesn't have a ton. You know, you have some 2000s here, and you have some 500-pounders here, but nothing compared to stuff like the Phantoms, which are around. But you do have these Yasser rockets. So these are the huge rockets that you're going to see around the place. And the Yassers have a mass of 760 kilos, maximum speed of 850, not a ton of penetration, but look at that TNT equivalent. 206 kilograms. Just to compare that to a Zuni is obviously quite a small rocket with good penetration, but you can see 9 kilos worth of TNT equivalent. This one has 200. So overpressure time might be fun with it. And also, one of the cool things about this is that it does have CCIP and CCRP for bombs and CCIP for rockets, so you can be deadly accurate with those Yassers that are going to come in. So that's going to be really fun in ground forces. I think that there are better options for ground forces, but so far they've just copied the battle ratings over, so you can bring this at 11.7 if you have a lineup there, which I think America does, but it's not a very strong one, and it won't be very good. So yeah, it's one of those vehicles which will have a horrific stock grind, but then again, there aren't that many vehicles that have great stock grinds right now. It will keep itself below the top BR if it sticks at 12.3, and looking at this ordnance, I don't think it really makes it too much better than the standard F-14A. I think it might be slightly better just because of the different options that you get, but the IR missiles are really going to limit you. You're going to have to fully rely on the radar. But let's be honest, this radar is pretty good. So I think overall, I would be fine in kind of doing that. You can see here, this is the stock loadout for the vehicle. So unless they change it, it's going to be pretty rough. It does still have like the fuel tanks and the countermeasure sets. So the same as like the standard one. The shell of the vehicle is exactly the same as the F-14A. So if you're a person who, like me, spaded out the F-14A when it came in, it's exactly the same. There's no difference between it at the moment from what that is. And if you've been playing the F-14A recently, you might realize how fun the vehicle is in terms of, you know, a general vehicle. Like, it's one of those which has been incredibly good for the longest time. But right now, just in its stock configuration, this one's gonna struggle way more than the F-14A is. But once you get past that and start getting some of the fun missiles, which are not fully modeled yet, it will be pretty fun to play. So for me, when I think about this vehicle, what I see is a vehicle which a lot of people are going to grind out, and they're going to have fun with, they're going to enjoy themselves with, and they're just going to spam active radar homing or semi-active radar homing stuff at people. And for me, it's an opportunity to grind out a lot of vehicles around the place, which should be pretty fun. I really, as I said, not a huge fan of the AIM-9Ps. Their burn time's pretty low. It means that it's going to be hard to hit a lot of targets with them if you are far away from them. I much prefer stuff like the 9Hs and also other missiles that are around. But once you get those bigger banger missiles, it'll be a little bit better. The F-14 is a fantastic vehicle, and for some reason it keeps itself below the maximum BR. So you're not going to go up against the crazy big bangers, and you're going to have a wonderful time with it. If you want to grind out one event this year, I would definitely say to grind out this one. It's going to be a great vehicle. It's going to work fantastically going forward for anybody. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank GMG Smiley, CD Beans, Chieftain Mike, EMN3 Galaxy, Tulio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Ozzy Panzer, Alan Hacker, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Sem, Aslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.